Okay, where is it? Here we are again. Number 12. Part 12. I don't know if you could hear it. I have a dog out here snoring. She just snores. She's in a crate where it's warm. But the fans are going tonight. There's a lot of oranges around here. And so people have, mostly to the south of me, there's a couple of small orange orchards where they have the props, the wind props going for the, to protect the oranges from frost. They just get to howling. You might be able to hear it. Okay, where we left off here. All right. This still is quite a long chapter. There is no fear when we are in him. Let me see. Let me back up a little bit. Let's see here. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. He's talking about people who are waiting for the sound of the trumpet blast, waiting for their orders, those who can't wait to have God send them into the middle of some terrible battle in the most unexpected place. These people have no fear because they are totally submitted to Christ. When we are totally submitted to him, God has that perfect love. God says that perfect love casts out fear, and he is perfect love. There is no fear when we are in him. Let us not confuse this with another type of fear, which is the fear of the Lord. It's not a terror type of fear. It's a respect kind of fear of being afraid of displeasing him. If something causes you to fear and dominates you and modifies your behavior and causes you to respond to circumstances due to your fear, if your fear is so strong that it is changing your behavior to the point where you are making decisions based on fear, I can tell you for a fact that you are not totally submitted to Jesus Christ. You are not operating in a meek attitude. Remember the previous video was talking about the meek horse. A horse that is submitted to its master and obeys. Something like that. You are not operating in a meek attitude of allowing Jesus Christ to be your complete master and Lord. There may be something that you think you have submitted to God that maybe isn't really. Comfortable here. Just a few months ago, when our son was 2 weeks old, he got very sick and was in intensive care for 5 days. We were not sure what was going to happen to him. There was a little tinge of fear that went through my heart as we were taking our baby down to the hospital. Then the thought went through my head, whose baby is this? It's interesting. Whose baby is this? Is it mine or is it the Lord's? Have I totally placed this child in the hands of the Lord? Am I willing for whatever God ordains for the life of this baby, my only son? Once I double-checked that, once I reaffirmed before the Lord that this was indeed the case, the fear left. Yes, it was a difficult time, and we had to run back and forth between the hospital and home, and there were all kinds of different things that needed to be done. It was tiring and exhausting, but that panic and fear were not there anymore. The book of, not there. Okay, fear can only get a hold of us and manipulate us and cause us to react to it when we are not totally surrendered to God. If we are willing to do what he wants no matter what, no matter if we lose everything, no matter if they kill us, no matter if we go through all the troubles that Job went through, if that is resolved, Satan can't terrorize us with his fears anymore. The book of Job opens with a description of the wonderful relationship that Job had with God, and of all the wonderful children, property, and possessions that God had showered upon him. From Satan's perspective, Job had everything. He complained to God that the only reason Job served God was because God had put a hedge around him and had blessed him abundantly. From God's perspective, Job lacked at least one very important thing he still needed to learn, a very important lesson. This comes out in chapter 3. Chapter 3 of Job. For the thing which I greatly feared has come upon me, and that which I was afraid of is come unto me. I never had prosperity, nor did I secure myself. Neither was I at rest, yet trouble came. God's peace is not dependent on external circumstances. It is an inner state. Job had to learn to overcome his fear before he could truly become everything God wanted him to be. This is one of the reasons that God removed the hedge of protection around him, allowing Satan to strike. Even though Job was blameless in God's eyes before, during, and after his experience, God delivered him of all his fears by taking him through the middle of his worst nightmares and bringing him safely out the other side. When I was kidnapped by the guerrillas and they threatened to kill me, the first couple of times it was, they're going to kill me, and fear would grip me. But then in prayer before the Lord, I had to resolve, am I willing to do and say what God wants done or said, even if they torture me, even if they shoot me? If that's the case, then they can't terrorize me anymore. It takes their weapon of fear right away. Am I willing to do what and say what God wants done or said? When God talks of delivering us from our fears, I believe that many times the form his deliverance takes is to bring us to the place where we are all willing to go forth in his name and face our worst fears. Because we are in submission to Jesus Christ, and this is all that matters, then we become like the horse who doesn't like to stay in the stable. He doesn't like to just be eating his corn or hay. He doesn't like to just have an easy life in the stable. He is straining his ear for the call to battle. He mocks fear and is not afraid. Neither does he turn his face from the sword. The quiver rattles against him, the glittering spear and the shield. He swallows the ground with fierceness and rage. The sound of the shofar does not trouble him, for the blast of the shofar fills him with courage. He smells the battle afar off, the thunder of the princes and the sound of the battle cry. He's straining his ear. He wants to find out what the commanders are saying because he's going to follow orders. He can't wait to get into the thick of it. These are the kind of people that God wants to raise up. These are the kind of people that God wants to bless. He doesn't want us to be always living in a day when the proud are called blessed. He wants to bless his people and lead them to victory. Meekness has to do with faith in Jesus Christ, with submitting to Jesus Christ, with obedience to Jesus Christ. Faith and obedience cannot really be separated. When James says that faith without works is dead, he's not talking about self-works, but of God-ordained works. In other words, if we say that we have faith in God and we are not doing God's works, doing the work that God has called us and empowered us to do, then we are just playing games. We won't be able to stand in a real battle. We'll be dominated by our fears. Our fears will get the better of us. Satan will be able to hem us in, and we will live our lives in a cage of fear that we ourselves helped him build. I've had certain birds and little hamsters that have lived so long, for so many generations in a cage, that if you take them out of their cage, they just sit there and tremble with fear. They don't know what to do. They can't do anything. In fact, I'm told that there are animals that die when you take them out of their cage because their security is gone. Their security is the walls and the bars of their little cage, and they can't live outside of it. Now, there are other birds and animals that are so used to being free that if you put them in a cage, they will die. They can't live cooped up in a cage. Which one do you want to be? Do you want to live in a cage and never see the blessing of God and never win a victory over the enemy? Do you really want to live in perpetual fear about what's going on outside those bars that you have surrounded yourself with? The fears that Satan has used to entrap you? This spirit can take this spirit can take many forms. It can be fear over what's going to happen to our kids. It can be fear over what could happen economically if something were to happen to our savings. Some people fear cataclysmic future events. In any area of our existence that is not totally surrendered to the Lordship of Christ is open to attack. I don't know what your area of fear is, but I do know that if you really want God to deal with it, lay yourself on the altar and He will. Let me see here. Let's leave it there. Love you. God bless.